You're listening to Supervision with a Vision, where we discuss all things supervision. I'm your host, Sarah, professional counselor, marriage and family therapist, play therapist, eating disorder specialist, and cookie lover, with my co-host, Heather, marriage and family therapist, certified Together in Texas counselor, a Texas transplant from California, and outdoor adventurer. Hi, welcome to Supervision with a Vision. Today, Heather and I are talking about tempering a tantrum. This week, we read 6 ideas for tempering the tantrums in your partner, published in Psychology Today 2024. Heather, have you experienced some temper tantrums as a counselor?
Yes. I think even this week I had a parent that was not thrilled because I had to change some scheduling things around. And she was much more than just annoyed that I had to change sometimes. But
well, the way I asked the question, it made me instantly think, have you thrown a temper tantrum as a counselor? But yeah, I had clients, supervisees, maybe ourselves sometimes.
Right.
Okay. I definitely think I've witnessed or been a part of a temper tantrum coming from all of those directions, maybe. Right. So the first point in the article is that the temper tantrum actually is distressing for us.
Right. The receiver of the tantrum.
So if you're a witness to, or like the emotion is coming at you or like is
on
near
you. Right. And maybe not even on, you could also be witnessing it and it could be distressing. Right. But that definitely happens.
Can you think of some examples of that? Maybe where it is actually directed at you, and maybe sometimes where it wasn't directed at you, but it felt distressing.
I can still remember the first time in session with a couple, and they started arguing with each other in session, and they were both expecting me to choose a side to like say which one was right. And I literally was like, they're both wrong. I can't say anything. I cannot speak. Like so much was going through my head and nothing was coming out of my mouth. And they just kept getting louder and louder. And I was realizing this was not good in my office I was in with 10 other counselors, but also like, oh, wow, I needed to see them do that because I needed that, I needed to see that interaction. But it made me very nervous, very anxious, just to witness someone else's little snit.
I can remember, I guess the first examples that come to mind are clients and younger kid clients. I remember, I can't think, this was reasonably new out of school, and I was working at a Head Start.
Oh.
And my role was that I wasn't teaching, but I would go into the classrooms and help the teachers with social emotional health or classroom management. And there was a little boy that had already kind of been pegged as
He's a hard one.
Yeah, he's tough. And partly because he was hurting other kids, he was hurting the teachers sometimes, he was hurting himself sometimes. He would just get so emotional and angry that he would end up hurting someone. A lot of counselors have had training where it's their training is how to de-escalate or prevent someone from getting hurt. So whichever one of those trainings this organization used, I was using their techniques to help de-escalate and contain the situation. And because I was bigger than him, a lot of that was just put myself in between him and another child or something that could hurt him. And in doing that, he really beat up on me.
Yeah. You end up with bruises. You're like, oh, that's going to hurt.
I remember, it was, I'm sure we looked like a cartoon of two people rolling around fighting. Right. I mean, it just looked, I can't, the in-between from me kind of blocking him from the other kids to how we ended up this way. But I remember the way that it concluded was he and we went from the classroom to right outside the classroom in the hallway. And the end of it was both of us sitting on our bottoms, legs straight out in the hallway, breathing hard, sweaty. And we were both like worn out, like tired. We exhausted ourselves. And I said, what should we do now?
Wow.
And he said, Play-Doh.
Huh.
And I went, okay. And we went back inside the classroom, and I got, quickly and without disrupting anybody else, we get 2 containers of Play-Doh. We're at a table by ourselves, still kind of containing the situation. And I can tell that his body language is more calm, and he's tired.
Right.
But where he's, gets his Play-Doh out and he's squishing it, and, and at some point he said, he reached over and patted my hand and said, I'm sorry I hurt you.
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
whoa.
That's a huge,
But,
yeah.
it was distressing to me. I was breathing hard and sweaty. So it was tough, but I can think of a handful of other situations kind of similar that, and it was just my job containing the situation and keeping the kids safe was to some degree distressing because it was important to me to keep the kids safe. But I think like you, I've had some family sessions too that have
gotten a little wild.
Yeah, start to get out of hand what about supervisees? Can you think of a supervisee that got upset that you wanted to help contain them or their feelings?
I've gotten a couple of calls from supervisees over a long period of time, but where they are panicked about a session they just had or really worked up, and like I can tell by their just pressure of speech and like how fast they're talking that this is like they need to de-escalate before they can even go do the rest of their job that day. Like you need to get reset right now. And so almost have to like pause supervision and go, but really, let's like calm down. What would you and like walk through it. But one of them in particular was calling me because in her session, a client had professed that they had feelings for her.
Oh.
And she just unraveled. Like, okay, bye. See you next week. Like, gotta go.
Yeah.
And, she called me immediately. It was like, I have 3 more sessions today, but you have to know about this. Who do I report it to? And I was like, okay, this is, this doesn't get reported, but you didn't address it. So now it's lingering and now it has to be addressed. It was one of those,
tough.
But those kind of situations they're not easy, but in context, I think seeing my supervisees go through those, like just distressing situations, you feel for them. That's hard. No one wants to be in that situation. That's not a,
now I'm thinking back. I really wasn't in a clinical supervisor role for this person, but managing a clinic and a clinic where there were individual sessions, but also groups.
Okay.
And in the group, there was a, poorly behaving group member, a bad group member. And I don't know, maybe we could, for this purpose, we could say that they were throwing a temper tantrum.
Okay.
But there was more than one clinician in leading the group. And somehow it turned, this client turned the group into being angry at one of the clinicians.
Okay.
And getting the rest of the group members worked up that they also were upset.
That's scary. Yeah.
So the one clinician felt really targeted.
Sure.
And because it was scary and distressing, the other clinician totally bowed out and like, hey, like, I don't want to get targeted.
The group's going to turn on me next.
Right. Yeah. And so not only was the person who was the clinician that got targeted was distressed because this whole group of people was upset with them, but also my coworker and my partner turned on me.
Right. What is happening right now?
You just watched all that happen to me and you didn't say anything or do anything.
Yeah.
And so I want to say they ended the group just a couple of minutes early and wisely. I think they found some other clinician in the building and went, help us.
Right.
Can you help transition to the next thing in the day or whatever? But those two, the one who just was silent.
Right.
Basically ran away and hid in their office. And the other person came to me mad.
Oh, yes.
This is what just happened.
It can't go down like that.
And I felt unsupported. And really what the reason the group got upset with the one clinician was that the clinician was trying to hold a limit.
Right.
And trying to set a boundary that they thought they'd been asked to hold according to the clinic, the
Right.
clinic expectations, they were upholding a limit there, um, and just got dumped on.
Mm-hmm. It's very distressing.
Yeah. So then it was like, oh gosh, okay. So in that moment, I thought it
Mm-hmm.
almost felt like a strategy. Like, who do I help first?
Mm-hmm.
Thinking back, the way I did it was kind of like when you have two young kids that are hurt,
Right.
that are like fighting with each
Right.
other, that you attend to the one who got hurt,
Mm-hmm.
like the
Right.
victim,
The victim. Right.
and then you go back to the
Mm-hmm.
other one and make sure they're
Mm-hmm.
okay too.
Mm-hmm.
But so I started out with, okay, let me attend to the clinician that's
Right.
feels like they've been hurt, and then I went to the group
Mm-hmm.
and to try and manage and address what was happening there, and then to the clinician who did also feel hurt in the situation but was hiding
Right.
in their office. It felt like a lot to try and help all the distress that was happening all at the same time.
Well, and just think about, I mean, your role there at that time, you didn't expect that to happen in your day. You had a day
No.
chock full of other things to do.
I think I remember that I was in the kitchen making myself a snack or something. So I'm like sipping on a drink, like have like a straw and like here's my little, crackers and cheese or something, and then like, whoa,
I just unfold it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so the second point in the article is that a good first step is to focus on behavior.
Right. So if you're noticing, that's like reading some body language, or like noticing like someone's pressure of speech changes, or their flow of speech is different. Their eye contact, if you're with them, your eye contact, maybe they may be not looking directly at you. And notice maybe that like the intensity of something, right? The intensity of someone's tantrum is usually physical. You can usually, even if they're not acting out physically.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, quick question for you. Are you someone who wants to be fit, healthy, and happy? And what if I told you could get your dream body by simply just listening to a podcast? I'm Josh.
And I'm KG, and we're the hosts of the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast.
Listen, we get it. Fitness isn't easy. Carbs, no carbs.
Just stop, okay? It doesn't have to be that complicated. And that's why we made this podcast. We get straight to the facts so you can become your best you.
So the way to check us out is click the link in the show notes or search Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast on any of the major podcast platforms. We'll see you soon.
I was thinking, along the same lines, like noticing what the change in behavior is, and also thinking what's a behavior change that could help the situation.
Right.
So what's a behavior that you think you would recognize as, okay, this is intensifying or this is getting worse?
I've actually had a client before that had high anxiety, and he had kind of a little parking lot altercation before he'd come in the building, and he could not sit, and he was pacing, but he felt bad about pacing. And so I said, you know what? There's great walking trails behind my office. Let's go on a walk. And at first he was like, okay. But I felt safe enough with him alone, and he just really needed to like move. And really, by the time we crossed the backside of the parking lot to get to the walking trails, he was already de-escalated.
To me, that's like making the behavior feel more productive or appropriate.
Right.
Because I'm imagining pacing in someone's counseling office. What do you,
it's
like 10 feet or something?
Right.
Or like pacing back, like back and forth, which doesn't feel calming.
No, that really, I felt like he was getting more and more and more. And like,
so maybe even it helped you to manage your distress.
I'm sure it was more me.
But if you feel the need to walk, let's go walk, but let's walk in a way that creates a different
pattern, a different feel response to it. Right. Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking maybe like, because we both said that we've been in a room with a couple or a family where they start to escalate. The times where I can remember that got really intense in a session for me. I stood up.
Oh yeah.
But also directly asked one of those people to leave the room. For the purpose of, this is intensifying. Maybe that was the second, third, fifth step.
Right.
We've already tried some things to de-escalate and it's not working. So let's change some behaviors by having someone leave the room.
Right.
Which I would say it is a really effective way of getting somebody's attention. Me standing up as the counselor and saying, okay, so at this point, I need someone to leave the room.
Right.
And sometimes I've been specific. I can actually one time this many years ago. It was a family session with a teenage girl and her mother, and they were getting really upset with it. Was intense, and they were getting more and more upset with each other. I stood up and said, someone needs to leave the room, and I'm not leaving. And they both were surprised. They went like oh, like surprised. Right. And Mom eventually, like, they both kind of froze and stopped talking, which was
point.
Good, right? That my change in behavior helped them to change their behavior. So that part was effective. And then Mom kind of touched her purse and went, well, I guess I'll go. Okay, thank you.
Right.
So that time I just said someone, but other times I've said to a teenager or to a parent or the parents, okay, so we need to, someone needs to go. Like, Mom, I need you to leave, or teenager.
Right. Take a break. Right.
Yeah. So focusing on behaviors, either behaviors that we're noticing that are showing us that things are escalating, and also focusing on behaviors that could change, that could help de-escalate the situation. Right. Do you think that includes noticing your behavior?
100%. And I think also even how you're talking, right? When someone else is intensified, if you just can really maintain like calm and maybe taking bigger breaths for them to notice, they might start to mirror your, you know, behavior. But yeah, I think that's important.
In supervision, can you think of a time where you focused on behavior with a supervisee that would have helped? I feel like, okay, I was going to say, I think that most of my supervisee situations that have escalated, and I mean, I'll say not all of these have to do with the supervisee escalating related to a client.
Okay.
I can think of 2 situations where I had supervisees that became upset with me.
They didn't like your feedback or your...
Well, I would say every time that's happened, it had to do with a limit that I was setting.
Okay.
And at first I was going to say, well, this always happened online, but it hasn't. Some of these, a couple, I mean, there haven't been that many, but maybe 2 times where that's happened. That often my solution, or like, I think I would say in general, the solution has been to change the way that we're meeting.
Yes.
So one time, this person was getting upset, and previously when we met, it was it felt casual or more informal. And so the next time we met, not formal like you're in trouble at the principal's office, but a little more formal for the purpose of saying, I'm being serious, I'm really listening to you, this is an important situation. And I don't know that it completely resolved the situation, but it did help, I think, for both that person and I to listen in a different way.
Right. To be able to like kind of pause and reset for the moment. Yeah. That's I can think of that kind of situation with a supervisee that was more like where I did become more formal and more directive than just falling in the same pattern of like, okay, so let's talk about your cases. More like, you know, giving a firmer grab of like, okay, so when we talk about this, we have to follow through, like, you know, making sure that ends up.
Okay, I think I noticed that when we talked about clients, we're talking about their behavior and helping them to change their behavior. When we switched and we talked about supervisees, you and I both talked about changing our behavior.
Interesting.
With the intent that it would help them to change their behavior.
How interesting. Good catch.
I think I'm going to think about how that might work the other way around and why we did that.
But, that's interesting.
The last point in our article, or maybe 2 points in our article, were that after focusing on behaviors, work to move forward and reflect on the situation.
Right. So giving some time and space to, if it's with a client and they've had this tantrum, and I don't like to say like, make it okay, because really we don't, but clients are coming to us to work on some behaviors, and that might be some of them, but to be able to kind of circle back around of like, that's what therapy is about sometimes. Sometimes it's frustrating, and sometimes we have bigger emotions or feelings about situations that we do kind of the repair work.
Yeah.
Like start that repair work. So it doesn't end in a like big explosion and then we're done and walk out.
I'm thinking, okay, in like really true temper tantrum, 3-year-old on the floor, kicking, you know, like crying.
Right.
Isn't it, I mean, I don't remember that,
me
doing
3.
that. Right. I don't remember 3 or laying on the floor and kicking and screaming, but you do have to peel yourself up off the floor.
Right.
And then go like, okay, brush yourself off. I'm going to move forward now. That, I imagine that would be a little hard for a 3-year-old, but even harder for an adult who has to go, okay, I was just kicking and screaming, and now I need to pick myself up off the floor and dust myself off and
regroup.
Yeah. That maybe feelings of like embarrassment.
Sure.
I don't know what else would go with that. Embarrassment feels like the big one.
Or maybe even more frustration, because even if you express that frustration, if the boundary was still set or the nothing changed because of your tantrum, maybe you're like, okay, I have to go on with this and I'm still mad about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that, like, then back to the laying on the floor, like you're still on the floor and you've kind of worn yourself out, but you're like, but the situation is still the same.
Right.
And here I am on the floor mad about it.
Right.
But also, how long am I going to lay here?
Right. I can't be here for.
Yeah. So at some point you have to. And I think maybe we're saying, how do we help be facilitators of, okay, get yourself up.
Now what? Do you need a drink of water? Do you need to, you know, how are you going to reset?
I think maybe I'm going to start by asking myself, what would not facilitate that?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Like what, as a counselor or a supervisor, makes it harder for that person to go, okay, I just had a temper tantrum and we got to move past that.
So I think with most people, if you point that out, like, you just had a temper tantrum, like, this is bad or whatever, like, that's not gonna, I don't think that would be effective.
Okay. Any kind, literal or not literal, shaking your finger at somebody.
Right. Exactly. Not helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes just the action of being present. And like you were talking about with the little boy in the hallway, you both were just exhausted. And you're like,
oh, now what?
What do we do next? Mm-hmm. And like, think about what a relief for that kid. No one had probably tried that tactic before.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
oh, for sure. Had I not been there that day, the next step would not have been, let's go do Play-Doh quietly at the table by ourselves. The next step would have been walk down the hall to the clinic director's office and sit there till we call your mother.
Right.
In the, whatever they called the chair, he knew what it was about. Right. It was, you're in trouble.
You were in so much trouble. Yeah.
So yeah, that was already different. Oh, what are we going to do? Let's go play Play-Doh.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to think about, as counselors and supervisors, how we help and invite them to the next step.
Right. And it's going to be different with your clients than it is going to be with a supervisee or even with a colleague. I mean, just you're going to handle it differently, I think, based on what you already know about the person.
What I mean, we gave some examples already of not kids, but grown-ups that they've just had a temper tantrum in front of you, and how you can almost like show them the way,
right?
Or allow them, well, here is your next step. If you'd like to take it, you can move out of temper tantrum mode into being calm, moving forward, starting to let this go.
Right. I use one technique that I was thinking of, that I use it with clients, but I also use it with supervisees so like, what happens next? What's the rest of your day like? Like trying to get out of like the session or the, you know, okay, so what's happening the rest? It's kind of like, let them, you know, have time to reset.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to be thinking more about that. I have a kid today that I probably will see that will make me think. A nice wrap up will be, okay, whew, we did that. So what does the rest of your day look like?
Something just to move on to the next.
Yeah. Well, Heather and I would love to hear about times that you have diffused a temper tantrum, and we'd love to get feedback on a new episode that you might appreciate hearing. Thanks for listening today to Supervision with a Vision.